Offensive of 1918, and talking about what was lost because of World War I, including the inability of the world leaders to deal with World War I. They were just ill-equipped on so many levels to handle this. Don't know if it's working over here. Well, maybe we won't have that. I'm not going to mess with that right now, but we should be high. No, we're good going here, but just checking all the different sources. Are we really live? Yes, it looks like we're live. Yes, we're live on YouTube's. And Niagara, how are you doing today? Yeah, I don't think Arno is actually here yet, but should be soon. Well, like I say, we're going to be talking about what was lost. Lost because of World War I. Ah, yes. There's a very small Gamer 1745 meetup today. My friend Niagara and my friend, because people use different screen names, I'm trying to remember which one I should use. Werewolf Man is visiting Eric in Norway this weekend, and they went to a car show. That is cool. Yes, he liked it pretty much too. Cool. European cars are different than American cars, and I know Werewolf is a car enthusiast, a gearhead, a tinkerer with cars as a yeah, well, as Niagara is saying about Germany, because I know they lost a lot of land during World War One, and I started talking about this last week. Loss of personal government, personalized government. I'm not sure. I'm still having to think about this, and when I say it that way, I don't know if it's coming across well. But if I say it the opposite way, impersonalized government, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The government and society in many ways becomes impersonalized. Just think how different government would be. And look, people, I know I'm a small YouTuber, that a live session like this will get on YouTube maybe 100 views, not 100 concurrents, but 100 views during the live stream, gets 50 or so, though generally longer views on Twitch, few views, though I don't know that it's working right now on the green platform. I don't know if I should be saying the name. So, and a little bit of views over on Twitter. Actually, I think I've had one or two people that have watched a considerable amount of the video over there. But I do seriously think about history and society and all of that stuff. And I know no one's paying attention, but still, it's important for me to think about it. That just think today, and there's, which would be horrifying to to the people that work in government. But just think, if all the government bureaucrats out there had to maintain positive customer relations scores on, on some sort of online type review. So whether you're okay, Niagara, have a good day, or maybe evening. No, it's still day there. Sort of ladies, lots of BMWs, some Chargers, some Porsches. Yes. So that, just think, if they had to maintain positive reviews of their actions, how different government would be. At whatever level, that if they got too many negative reviews, they would be fired. How different society would function. Arno is actually here now. Cool. And so I've been trying to think about this, and it's crystallizing in my head. I know I'm again a small-time YouTuber, philosopher, thinker, so I have very little impact. I am aware of this, but I've read the original Dune novel, and I've also read the sort of 3 prequels that his son put together, and especially boy, I'm blanking on some. Yeah, Paul's family. How the loyalties there, and they'll also look at some of the other families, are loyalties to a person or a family, not to a national identity or a political ideology. And that is something that World War One causes the collapse of that to, loyalty to a person, to something like that. You don't, you go, yeah, my brother in the army here, yeah, I would die for them, yeah, that's real, but the idea of a political leaders who do you put your trust into, I guess, and this is all still forming in my head. So if somebody wants to criticize these thoughts that I'm having, please do. I mean, I would prefer you do it in a, I don't know if kindly is the right term, but in a manner that is, thoughtful, as opposed to just attacking, because I like challenges to my thoughts. Do you trust an ideology? Like, if we just have X ideology, everything will be okay, whether that's an economic ideology or a governmental ideology. Like, hey, we'll be okay as long as we have a democracy, or everything will be okay so long as we have, fascism or communism or liberal social order, democracy, or everything will be okay so long as we'll have traditionalism. As long as we have that, everything is okay. Or hey, so long as trust in our nation, so long as we have our nation, our national leaders, everything will be okay. And because this whole idea is new. Yes, Niagara was here for a little while. I was saying hi to you. He's had to leave, but and so because here in America now, in the last number of years, a lot of people have been saying on the right, God, family, country. That's what they believe in that order. First. Oh yeah, okay. So you get these, and I know I'm rattling on here, but I think hopefully it's interesting. I don't know if it's important or not. So you get these, and I may share a lot of it's. I'm not like trying to say these people are bad or whatever, but you get these people that put, you know, God, family, and country. Okay, God, they're trusting in God. Fine, good. Um, it, exercise a real word. Hello, Crouchy. Not exactly sure your question, but I get the idea of, hey, don't stress over life too much because you're in God's hands, and for good or for bad, you'll deal with it, and you're going to put your trust into God to make the best for you. Okay, I get that. That's fine. And then your immediate family, yeah, okay, that's important to you, and you're going to do your best for them. And then country. So you get these conservative types. Again, I'm not trying to knock them. This is people I feel comfortable with, and I'm not. Yeah, for some reason, I don't know why Rumble isn't working today. And I'm not going to investigate it right now in the middle of the stream. It's not that important. I thought I had it set up correctly, but maybe something is incorrect with the Rumble setup. Or no. Oh, but in country. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, you know, country. Yeah. You agree with what your political leaders are doing with your country? So now, conversely, you put your trust in people, they're going to let you down because people are imperfect and they're going to let you down at whatever level at some points in life. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to betray everything they believe in or everything, they say they stand for or something, but there's going to be times that they're going to let you down. But is bureaucracy going to support you? Is um, this impersonalized world, is your job going to support you? Hell, a lot of jobs only support you as so far as they're required to by law. Oh, sure, you can point to some sort of performance requirement type job, whether it's a sports team type, somebody famous, or just in anonymous to the greater world, some sort of great marketing manager or some sort of great programmer or whatever, the sort of star of the show and is doing great things, and they care about them because of their performance levels. But beyond that, so it's become a very impersonalized world, and I think, and this is all incredibly recently because, like we're saying, like I'm saying here, is this really comes about, really sort of nailed in this impersonalized world um, because of World War One. Okay, 1918. Because so 1918, 1920. So we're talking about 104 years ago. And if you look at the history of humanity, and please note, people, when I talk about history, I'm talking about the historical record of the written word, not just the past, because we don't know a lot. I mean, sure, we can dig up ruins of, buildings and cities and whatnot before the written record, but from the written record, from what we know about, is much, much older than the last 100 years. And we can talk about people's mental health today is maybe not the best. I don't know how terrible it is compared to what it normally is, but it sure seems bad. All right. Enough of this. Let's get to some battle. Okay, I think we are mostly done with this turn. I've actually just off camera did some purchasing of a few divisions. They'll be deployed in a while. But let's end this turn. Yes. French morale falls to the loss of Toul. We're getting a lot of MPP. Now, part of the reason for this impersonalized world that we face is scale, is the sheer scale of the world as it's become. So when I saying something like that, look at how big this battlefield is. It's contiguous, basically, from the sea to the Swiss border, where if you look at the previous Franco-German war, the Franco-Prussian war specifically, but yeah, as it's called, you see the battlefield is sort of like, it's spread around and there's a big sort of area, but it's only really battling in a few specific areas. Lost a division. And then it is, well, that sort of kind of worked out. Just that part of it. But then it's sort of the battlefield becomes the siege of Paris. So it's just around one city. Or we look at the previous big conflict, of course, being the Napoleonic Wars, and we think of big battles like the Battle of Waterloo, which is a big, massive battle. But you can walk the length of it in a day. So, and it is fairly spread out if you take the great, not just the sort of, oh good, got some damage on the tanks, and they took out my troops, and they're coming after my artillery. Okay, we may have to do something about that. We'll have to see. So how do you do? Because if you look at something like a Roman legion, which we sort of tend to not think of them as a, tribal organization. My understanding, again, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, please do, a legion was formed at a specific time and place, and it becomes a fixed thing. They don't get reinforcements. they, and numbers or whatever traditions may be reused periodically, but it's not like, hey, there's the 10th Legion and they have their 5,000 men. I think that's the basic strength of a Roman legion. And then after, every year, there's going to be soldiers retiring or leaving because of injury or whatever. So they'll get replacements. So they stay at that five. No, they slowly attrit over time because they're just sticking with the same 5,000 men. And slowly, go down. Unless, of course, they rapidly go down because of, combat losses and similar sorts of things. So even there, we're seeing much more of a personalized setting than you might think. The rains have come. We lost 2 divisions, and we lost a town, which we might work to get back. I am not sure at this moment. Okay, well, let's come up here where we've been having some losses. Okay, well, that's the town we lost. The question is, do we want to try to take it back? I'm not sure. Okay, want to, so we will reinforce that. We also have a division that was badly mauled. Reinforce that too. Whether it's people here live or Memorex later, love to hear your thoughts on what I've been speaking on. Okay. So we have 3 shells, so we're going to fire at least 2 here. Okay, and let's see if we can take out this Belgian unit. Very good. Right. Now, even though we're doing positional warfare, we're also doing, along with that, attritional warfare. So, and this is, again, one of the tragedies of World War One. They, at least, and in a modern sense, World War One. I mean, well, I know in the last 10 years or so, a lot more has been done about World War One than had previously been. World War Two had been the big elephant in the room, the big what everybody paid attention to. But I think there was too much emphasis. Reinforce these guys before they're destroyed. On taking ground. And this offensive here, which we're supposed to take Paris, of course. Okay. So we can take this somewhat battered unit, withdraw to here, You take these guys here, move to there, and entrench. But how I'm seeing this, and I do intend to, excuse me, to push for Paris. And so now I have, these guys took out a division. They are a bit weak in that they're 7 and they can be taken from 2 positions, but we've got this. Is smarter destruction of the enemy more important than taking out the or taking a particular position on the field? Yeah, I figured they had something back there, but it's good to know. So now here, I think giving up this position here, I know we're not right now really in a place. Oh, well, if we can fully take that, okay, well, come out. Now, could I have stayed here? Yeah, but we are, I think, pretty deep with English troops around us back in the second rank that will come up and just pound anything. So having that straight line is rather useful, I think, to not have a weak spot here. I know this isn't exactly straight here, but now down here we have the sort of magical spot that the enemy will keep coming in and we get to just kill. Yeah, that's, they retreated out, but we'll let them go. Now down here in the rain, let's reinforce you. Last time we attacked there. And but we only have one gun that can fire here. Now you got 4 shells that we can take here. Because we want to get this town. But you can see the roads come in this way. So that's the supply line that we want to secure. Barely see all the sort of trenches over everything. So we have 8 shells here. So let's just really see about Ground attack. Oh, we should have done this first. Interceptors. I think we have interceptors there. Or escorts, I should say. Yes. Well, that sort of worked. What I hope. No, maybe. Yeah, it's about. Okay, well, they withdrew. These guys. Now, I could hit that, but what I think we're going to do here is entrench. I think that is more. Another week from this position here. Now, they can move into those entrenchments. These guys can come down into here. Okay, so we've taken and we've held this for one turn here. Probably partially, at least, because we're facing Americans. And they're not maybe what they will eventually become. Okay, very good. They could come in, but they couldn't entrench. Damn. Damn. The mud's slowing things up, I believe. And these guys can't get into there. I really don't want to move these guys out of that position. I want to reinforce them. Maybe I should have moved the... Yeah. I don't know. Hey, ZZ, how you doing? You there. Hold down the flanks. Oh, I'm doing great. I'm blathering about society on the interwebs while playing a World War I game. How much better can life get? Well, we can definitely store up artillery shells to a max of 10, obviously. But if we do that and allow the enemy to have complete free run of everything, then they will have the initiative too much. So smartly use up stuff. Let's see what ZZ's saying. I'm still taking in the liberal media and social media that is somehow shocked about Biden's condition after the debate. I guess that's the power of living in bubbles and echo chambers. What ZZ said is very, very powerful and very important. I don't know. You know, I'm older than a lot of you. I know I have a few old viewers out there that are even older than I, but I'm older than most of you. And realistically, in the 80s, it starts for me. That's what I'm talking about. That when, and I don't, I'm pretty sure, you know, a lot of you are Europeans, but some of you are Americans. Like ZZ is an American, if I'm not mistaken. Um, we used to have fewer media um, outlets, sources, whatever you want to call them. And sure, there was television, but there was also newspapers, magazines, yes, and the radio. Yes, from Virginia. Good. I thought you were from that region, ZZ, but I wasn't sure of the state. Um, right offhand, I know you may have said. I just how much I remember. And through the 80s, it's sort of dealing with the Iran hostage situation is gets me sort of politically aware. Where before that, I'm really into military stuff, but it's World War II military stuff, stuff that isn't current. It's really in the 80s that I start looking at current affairs. And almost in all cases, I am going against the media narrative because I'm a conservative, if you will, because I'm a Cold War warrior. You know, and I get there's a lot of people I don't want to be, and I agree with them nowadays. It's not so much that my position has changed; it's the world has changed. You know, I don't. Why should we be involved in war off in some other place? Well, like I explained to people, the Soviet Union, particularly, but also China. I don't know, not have them in the mix here. Any sort of conflict out in the world, in any country, the Soviet Union would pick a side. And if there wasn't a conflict, they would try to create one, you know, try to sponsor a protest movement, try to sponsor a terrorist war, you know, and it's just literally any and every country out there. And if there was a natural divide, you know, let's say the people that live in the valley versus the people that live on the mountain top, you know, or whatever it is, they'd try to pick a side and they would support that side. Now, maybe not 100% support is max level support always, just because, you know, logistics and capabilities weren't always there. But they would support that side and they would continue to support that side until that side won. Now, it might just be a trickle of support or it might be a tidal wave of support. But they would pick a side in every sort of conflict. So, as someone who, sort of pro-West and looking from the American perspective, you have two choices. You can either cede the battlefield to the enemy, knowing that they will eventually win, and this could be any country. They'll just grind on it for many, many years, and it might take 20, 30, 50, 100 years in the Soviet perspective, but they will grind their side. Or you can intervene on the side that the Soviets didn't take. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that all these battlefields would be a bunch of American Hueys coming in with, landing in an American Heliborn division or something like that. No, could just be money, supplies, weapons, whatever. So I was definitely a Cold War warrior, feeling that, somebody was complaining about death squads in El Salvador. So, death squads. Oh, death squads are evil. Well, maybe. Who are they killing? Oh, well, they're killing people. Well, but who? Now, sometimes I think they were, working as criminal gangs. Many other times they were killing communists. I don't know that they were evil. No, they weren't. But they weren't doing it through the legal system of whatever nation. True. But maybe the legal system of whatever nation wasn't up to handling the conflict. And, but they're killing the local union leadership. Well, is the union leadership also the communist guerrillas? Well, I could be, at least in my mind, asking these questions. And I'm sure, well, yeah, I'm sure innocence types. Now, not all of the women and children are innocent, because children plant bombs. Children shoot machine guns. And when there's a dead body of a child, trust me, in the Cold War, they would quickly remove, the AK-47 or whatever from the hands of the child, and then photograph that child, recently dead, and put it on the cover of Time magazine or something. Death squads kill children, blah, 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 blah. And whether it's a stray bullet, some little child is running for cover just because, oh shit, chaos breaks out, and who knows whose bullet hits hits the child, and the child just running for cover. Or if it was a revenge killing because the left killed some children, and this is the child of a leftist or something like that, a deliberate sort of murder, or whether this was a child who had a gun in their hands. I don't know. I'm not going to presume, excuse me, my side is morally correct in everything it does, but I'm not even necessarily giving it benefit of doubt. I'm going, yeah, they may be evil bastards, but they're fighting on my side in the global war. So, it doesn't stop me from supporting the side that I support, just because whatever happened, because we can easily find cases that were unpublicized in which a bunch of nuns of whatever ethnic group were all murdered. And it's clear that the left did it. It's clear. Now, sometimes that might have happened on the right too, but there was no other shooting. There was no other combat going around. The nuns didn't go out on the weekends with M16s and shoot up the place. They were just nuns doing nun things, charity work, spreading the good word, whatever, around the world. But they got butchered. So, and those were whenever the facts were inconvenient, they weren't reported by the news. And I'm still on ZZ's comment about Biden. So I am used to the idea that the media is, at least in the past, most of the big media would not lie. What they would do is sort of like what I'm saying is not report inconvenient facts, but try to because fog of war, if nothing else, try to report real, correct information, but report it in such a way and to support their side, so that back in the 80s, back in the 90s, most of the time, most of the the CNNs of the world, the ABC News, what they were telling you was close to correct technically. Again, they were trying to propagandize it in the sense of focusing on what the bad side was doing bad, and not focus on what the good side was doing bad, their bad acts. And so I'm used to this idea that they're doing. Now, with Biden, I do have liberal relatives, and definitely either during Biden's last run for presidency or after it, definitely had them to my face say, yeah, he gaffes once in a while. Now, of course, Biden's decline truly has gotten worse in the last 4 or so years, and I'm talking before he becomes president to now. He wasn't as bad when he gets elected as he is now, and that's quite true. But unlike them, because they catch the regular sort of news and sort of vaguely pay attention to what's going on, I'd watched plenty of Biden's speeches over the years from before he becomes vice president, and I see a massive mental decline. Massive. Biden, the senile old moron, right? Yes. And where not that he was a particularly great thinker ever, God no, but he was sharp-witted, meaning he could debate. He could, engage with you in a dynamic manner, rapidly and be witty and not like comedy, um, comedically witty so much as make a comeback statement and whatnot that you could tell is not prepared and whatnot. And so he was with it, and I see the decline. And yes, and I somebody online, and I've been aware of this. Look at Reagan. To bring it back. Yes, Reagan really, really only, and I was sort of around again at that time. Actually, not so much around Reagan, but around others because Reagan's already withdrawing. Yeah, really, sort of the last year of Reagan, the last year, he is starting to mentally slip. And I think he knows it, and I think the people around know it, and so they, um, protect his image. But that's at the last year, and he isn't running to be president again. I mean, yeah, he's already done his 8 year, is actually 7 years at that point, and so he isn't going to run again. But I don't think he would have, even if it was only after 4 years, he would have run again. He realizes he's slipping, and because he realizes he's slipping, even after he leaves the presidency, he sort of goes into seclusion to keep his image up. And I don't think it's just like Reagan's handlers doing it. I think Reagan himself realizes, well, hey, I had this great image, did this. I'm not mentally as sharp anymore as I used to be. I don't know what he saw himself as, but he didn't want to come off as a senile old moron. Um, so he withdraws from public life. Well, if Biden was withdrawing from public life, I would have a different opinion of this. Now, get back to ZZ, the media. Now, I'm just trying to picture there, and there's some actually really famous that they've gone in and looked at a bunch of different news media, news anchor type statements, and you'll see a screen in which they'll have 20 or 30 different, local TV stations saying literally the exact same thing that they all little screens. And so they're just, and it's laziness. It's mostly laziness that they'll just get one network, and these are often local stations that are part of a major network, but they'll get the local news people will just get the story, and someone will just sort of take the story, write up a teleprompter thing, and the person's reading the teleprompter and speaking it off. So it's laziness, and I do this. If you'll notice in like descriptions of this game for this live stream, I've literally copied and pasted a paragraph from the publishers that I quickly, full disclosure, this company, not right now, but Matrix and Flash Slytherin, they do pay me to live stream their games. So I'm not an employee of the company, but I do get paid by them at times. Um, but I do sort of quickly skim the paragraph or paragraphs that I'm copying and pasting to see do they ring true to me, or is it just some sort of pure sales pitch? But yeah, they ring, as a description of the game or whatever, and they might, you know, be selling it a bit, and I just copy and paste it and put it in here instead of writing my own paragraph. So yeah, some of it is laziness, but at some level they've known that Biden is mentally deficient, and they've known it for 2 years. The media, the Democratic Party, the DCCC or whatever, the big organizing group in Washington D.C. that organizes the big convention that's coming up for the Democrats and organizes up the primary. They've known that Biden is slipping. They've known all this time, and they're protecting the hell out of him until just recently. And I don't know how much it's bubbles and echo chambers. There's definitely some of that, ZZ. Definitely some of that. But it gets back to some of the who do you trust? Who or what do you put your trust in life? Again, do you put it in an ideology? Do you put it in into a system, or do you put it into persons? Personal loyalties. Somebody who was personally loyal to Biden, very loyal to Biden, would have worked to get Biden off the stage. Okay? Because if you're loyal to somebody like Biden, it's not, you work to protect that person. And I don't want to mention names because I don't, people around Biden. I think a lot of it is speculation, but some of it may be. But there are people around Biden that I believe are not loyal to Biden, but their jobs, their prestige, their influence is all based on that they're around Biden. So if Biden were to step off stage, whether it was a year or two ago, he would have retired and, let Kamala Harris take over the presidency or some other sort of thing, they would have lost their job or lost their prestige or whatever, and they would have just, had to find a new patron, and start over again. But they're at the top of the game. They're the people around the president of the United States. And so long as they are that job, that position, they're it. They're at the top of the game, top of the world. And so they'll prop him up to the bitter end because once it's gone, they're going to be out of it until, depending on their age, maybe forever, because if they're older themselves, they aren't going to latch on to some young upcoming congressman and work to promote him up to presidency over the next 20 years. They're not saying that they're ancient and they're, can't function. I'm thinking of, the staff people around some of these people, but they may be, not ready to start over again. And so they're going to, suck everything they can off of Biden. Where, like I say, some of the people I think around Reagan were very loyal to him, realizing that he's slipping, but not incapable of, knowing what day of the week it is and making reasonable decisions, but keeping him away from, interviews or press conferences and where people are kind of throwing all kinds of stuff at him and watch him stumble here or there. They're sort of protecting him and then moving him off stage. So, and I'm sure that there are, it seems like a different group of people. And I'm not talking ideological sense. I'm just talking the way they handled it. And so what should have been apparent, and this goes back to the emperor or the emperors without clothes, story that everybody, and this parables of emperor, the king, is given this magnificent suit by these, phony baloney tailors that really he's naked or whatever, and he's parading around, and everybody is admiring his new suit, and it's not even, and the real part of it is not that people can't go and say, look, but he's naked. No, they actually have convinced themselves, because they have been told, and this is what is what is important with this. They have been told that the emperor has this new wonderful suit. So they all are projecting their, projecting onto the image of the emperor whatever they think the most magnificent suit would be. And they're actually seeing the suit because they have convinced themselves that he is dressed. And then the little kid points out, well, why is he naked? And then everybody, what? Yeah, wait a minute, he's naked. And this is the mass psychology that people have that have convinced themselves that, and you guys here, I know ZZ and Arno and others that have been around, know that I will, and I do see your comment there, Arno, about Harris, that I will stumble over proper nouns. A person's name, trying to, I'll picture their face, some star, picture their face in the movies that they've been into, but trying to come up with that. And that's some sort of mental block I have. And it's not, I don't think it's getting any, I'm not that old. I'm in my 50s, hint, hint, 150s, but yeah. I don't really think I'm mentally losing it because of my age. Now we can revisit this 20 years from now and see if I am or not. But it's something that I've known back in my 20s and whatnot. I don't think, again, I don't have any charts on this, but what happened to Gamer 1744? I don't know that there was one. Hello, Meta Shisa, how you doing? Hope I'm getting that right. Something like that, Arno. Something happened in Britain in 1745 is why I have the number. Why that particular number. There's a lot of gamers out there, but yeah. So I think a lot of people convince themselves because they could not imagine that a senile old moron could possibly be running the government, because if they were a senile old moron, they would be gotten rid of, through the proper, because the 25th Amendment is out there. Yeah, 50 BC, yeah. Because it's reasonably well documented that President Wilson is basically literally comatose as president, and he has 0 public engagements, and he is signing, or his hand is signing, signing stuff into law. Now, it's thought to be his wife or girlfriend or whatever was moving the hand. Literally, they were, put the, he's comatose in bed. They, it's thought, and again, I don't, that because he's just that sort of, not non-responsive, and they're presuming that the paperwork's put in front of him, put the pen in his hand, and then the wife or whatever is signing the document, because they can see the change in signatures. And eventually it's a group of senators demand to see the president, and I don't know the story in detail, demand to see the president, and finally get in to see the president, and he's just non-responsive in bed. Yeah, he's breathing, he's alive, but he's just, he can't even respond to these people and whatnot. And so eventually they realize that, okay, even though the president is physically breathing, we've got to have a measure because of modern technology. We got to have a way to remove a president. So, the people can't comprehend that we would allow, again, senile old moron, according to Arno, run the most powerful country in the world that is the dominant nation, that's for well over a third, if not over half the population of the planet, is sort of dependent upon this person in this job, that they would allow this state of affairs. It must be that there's just these criticisms, and he must, just like I do, stumble over some word once in a while. So, but he's really with it. But it's becoming apparent that it's not the case. And so, and these people have also been convinced because they've been told, and this is another, people don't understand how powerful mass media is, because they've been told that democracy is at stake. And they believe this hyperbole about this election, and they've come to whatever they've come from rhetoric that used to be seen clearly as just rhetoric to now believing democracy is at stake. That this one election is, we will never have democracy again if we lose this election, basically. And then how do you go ahead? And I've noticed we've gone up to 10 and now we're back down at 6 viewers. Boy, I'm really hitting this out of the ballpark with popularity here. But how to process this democracy is at stake, and our one true hope is, what was it again? Senile old moron. Yeah, I think we have more of a group think, more of a, I don't know the psychological term for it, than we've basically ever had in the history of the West. Well, on that note, we're going to end this episode of Strategic Command. I want to thank everybody, but we're going to keep the live stream going. Don't worry. We're going to start another episode. Okay, let's go. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. No, I don't like to start. Let's start again. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. This is Gamer1745, and we are playing Strategic Command World War I, the Ludendorff Offensive, and we're talking about what effects World War I have had on society, on the world, on humanity, and some of the modern fallout from that events from approximately 104 years ago. Yeah, I made Gamer say it multiple times. I am awesome. Yes, I contribute to the, yeah. Well, I know some of my core fans here like to hear what I have to say about things, even though I may get a little too deep dive in some of it. Because I do find playing these games very, very interesting, very, very fascinating, but just somewhat limited, if you will. Okay, now we push them back. Yeah, I think, let's come down here. We pushed here. We have not really pushed. Seven shells. We want to push down this road. So, okay, you have not done a strike yet. You have. And do we have escorts? No. Oh, good. Make sure we keep it in the right one. Okay. Well, they fell back there, and unfortunately we did not, even with that bombing, we did not see what was behind that. But, well, no. See, if we move up there, we have, because we are off the main supply line, maybe I should have attacked with this units down here. Okay. Well, we're going to leave it at that. That we pushed the one unit back. All right. Purchasing. We lost a division, so or two divisions actually. So we'll cheaply replace those two, or relatively cheaply. And yeah, let's get in one more division. There we go. Keep the units coming forward. More U.S. troops deploy in French services at Orleans. Okay, an Ostend raid. The Treaty of Bucharest, Romania withdraws from the war. More MPP. I'll show you in just a moment, Arno, how far we are from Paris. Well, you can sort of see down here in the corner. Quite a ways from Paris. Ooh, 4. Knock them down. Interceptors. Escorts. Do 1 down from there, and 2 down from that. Bomber strength. Interceptors. Seeing the field well enough. Little bit of strength lost. All right, bringing back Saxon division here. We are a bit weak up here, so yeah, I don't want to bring it in on a rail line. Okay, let's see, what can we do here? You could get to there, right? Okay, you come to here. I want you to come here. I was hoping you would give me a look in there. Well, it may have not been the best strategy. Okay. I didn't want to walk into this hex and get surprised by the unit in Yeep, or Wipers, as the British called it. Very big battles went around there. Now, like Arno was asking, how close are we to Paris? We're here. Now, just so that you understand, with this game, and it does reflect a reality. If we were to, for this Ludendorff Offensive, if we were to straight drive for Paris, these roads and railways are very, very important for supply. Maybe hit yes, no, not at this point. But so you can look at this map. And I have played this scenario once before. Hey, Beam Slam. Seems a light year away. Yes. And I'm not going to spoil how that other playthrough, am I successful or not. It's close one way or another. I'll say that. So if you want to watch it through, if you haven't seen this, and I don't know if I'm going to play this playthrough all the way through to it. I'm just having fun right now on Saturdays streaming. Though next Saturday I won't be here. I got a gun show to go to that I want to do. But like we can see here with this game, and I'm just sort of analyzing the map and everything, which does reflect reality. Are we stuck in the mud? No, not at this moment. The artillery is somewhat, I mean, we can fire at this unit can fire at that unit here, here, and along here, but this unit back here it can't get anything along this road. And if we move our artillery, we cannot fire them this turn. So looking at this, even if I were to stack artillery up here and here and drive straight for Paris, well, we would be elongating our front line dramatically, because we've got to take, what is this? Rams. We would have to take, I don't know how to, Saloon here, whatever the hell. We got to take a few of these places to be able to supply a large force coming in. And if the French can hold this line here, this railway here, or whatever, we're going to have this huge, massive line. And do we have enough divisions? And we can look at purchasing. Now we can purchase detachments. It looks like at least 10 more detachments or something right now, which has a certain amount of strength and whatnot. And we can find a few divisions from some places, and we could pour them all straight at Paris. But I think we would have, but I think we would have massive problems with being pushed by the British, because we would really have to concentrate a lot of these units there along this here. But if we can take Verdun, now Verdun here, maybe a bit more than reality, is a secondary supply source. So if I cut off Verdun, it stays supplied. So, but what it doesn't do is get reinforcements. So it can, in a sense, well, meaning it can't get new divisions. So it can get reinforcements for the divisions that it has, and it can sort of hold out. Well, we could probably, and especially if we're willing to put some of those detachments around here, we can probably cut this off and let this be. And again, but to do so, we've got to cut off 100% of it off, but definitely off the rail link here through the Argonne Forest. So we've got to push basically here and through here. I mean, we got to cut this rail link here. We got to cut this link here. And we got to hold this. And it would be best if we fully cut this. So we need to get this rail through to here. We need to secure this rail line here. Let these Moras St. Gond or whatever this swamp sort of be a defensive line here, but we've got to hold this rail link here. So we've got to push here to secure our path in there. We can quite possibly leave this in our rear isolated, but that has to be isolated. And now up here we can push along the coast because we're sort of holding the flank. The more we take these ports, the worse it is for the British in resupply. So, and if we don't push up here, in my opinion, we'll see a lot of British forces coming and pushing at our northern flank to Paris. So it's really sort of, you can see this rail line here would be good to have coming here, and this way here. So we've got to take this. Now, will I be able to do it in the time allotted of the game, at the game's pace of moving? I don't know. But I am trying to play this, and then I've talked a lot about what was lost with World War I. And part of it, part of the reasons for the loss was very costly, and this was on both sides, very costly in human lives battles. The Germans, I would say earlier than the Western Allies, start to think in strategical defensive ideas. To my knowledge, and this isn't 100% thing, so don't take it as that. But generally speaking, yeah, sure we have Verdun and whatnot, but the Western, and this is sort of a way to think about this, the Western Allies built their trench works, including elaborate dugouts, which are, deep underground living conditions, using as materials, using burlap bags and wood, and of course whatever dirt or possibly rocks they found in that environment. That's it. That's what they used. Oh, sure, they use nails and whatnot, but it's wood and it's burlap bags, sandbags and wood. The Germans, on the other hand, used considerable amounts of concrete. 19 taking Paris seems not plausible. Well, you can look at my other playthrough, and if you want to jump to the end of it, see if I succeed or not. It's close. I want to say that. It's not like it's... I'm not saying whether I got it or not, but it's close. One way or another, it's close. So the Germans are using concrete. Now, what does this tell us? Is this simply a budgetary issue or a technological issue, like the Western Allies didn't know what concrete was? Of course they did. Is concrete more expensive than the wood and burlap bags? I don't know. I really don't. Because the it probably is, but depends on how it's the Germans might be shipping less wood and less burlap bags to the front lines because they're shipping a concrete. Do the Western Allies simply look at the high explosives that are being thrown around and go, hell, if we build out of concrete, they'll just be blown apart. So what good is that? And we can repair the wood and burlap bags faster than they can repair that concrete. And so it may become a liability. That may be a way of they're looking at it. But here's another way they might be looking at it, and I'm not sure. Are they looking at it that are the Western Allies looking at it as these are only temporary positions? Sure, they're this elaborate dugout, or elaborate trench works with reserve positions behind, zigzags, all this stuff, good machine gun positions, dugouts going down for the troops to go, go down, actually, sleep in there, have the bunk beds and all that kind of stuff, and cook down there to some degree, though most of the cook stations were further behind in bringing the food up a bit. But, living in the trenches there, but doing all that, but seeing it as purely a temporary, because the next offensive, we're going to be moving way forward ahead. And so why build concrete bunkers that we're just going to be in by the time we get them completed, we'll be, 1,000 yards, 5,000 yards, whatever, further along this battlefield. And sure, we'll be building new lines, but some other troops are just going to come in and dismantle the wood and the burlap bags and reuse them in the next trench line, where the Germans are thinking, how can we maximize, I'm sort of projecting here, and I don't know their actual thoughts. Are the Germans thinking, screw it, we're going to build the best defenses we possibly can, so when the Allies do attack us, we will minimize our losses and maximize the enemy's losses. And sure, the battlefield may shift and change, whether in our favor or their favor, but we will then again maximize our defenses, realizing that we can cause so much loss being on the defensive when they throw their human waves at us, that then when we counterattack, we'll be in relatively good shape. Hey, Felipe, it's been a while. How you doing? So I don't know. And again, that's sort of me projecting here. So take it with, as what it is. And definitely the Allies were encountering the German concrete defenses. So it's not like it's something that hasn't occurred to them to do. When you see the other side do it, you very well may be doing it yourself. At least try it out, but they don't. So so I'm looking at this with this game as a somewhat simulation of reality. Obviously, it isn't 100% by any means. How do we fight this war of attrition, a war of position? Not so much a war of maneuver, but maybe we could turn it into such. But how can we fight it smart? And that's sort of my exercise with World War One. Did you see? Yeah, parts of it, Felipe. Whether you want to do it now or some other time, I went in depth and talked about the idea just a little before you got here about Biden. So I'm not going to go into it again. But yeah. So I will say this about what I'm doing here is I'm trying to cause a collapse of the Allies' line by doing doing what I'm going to show here a little bit. Oh, well, yeah, we are very weak now in yeah, America is very weak right now. I mean, we're not going to be invaded or anything weak like that, but trust me, America on the world stage is in a weak position. Okay, see right here, this hex here. They moved a French infantry division here. And if we were to attack, okay, that would be a slightly better odds, but we could pound this down with that. But we have up here an artillery piece that we can just put 2 shells into it. We get 2 shells every turn. Okay, now we can hit it really hard. Not as hard as I had hoped. That took a fairly big damage. So what we're going to do is shift, swap that out. Yeah. Hopefully with that. Okay, so we've just eliminated a French division here. Yes, right now I will say this. I think Trump will win the election under the current conditions. And things may change. Meaning, if Biden is forced out by the Democrats, or he decides, or I mean, that's the only way he's going, but it may appear to the public like he's just decided to not run. And then if somebody more dynamic shows up on the scenes, yeah, they may beat Trump. I don't know who it would be. There's been some names tossed about, probably meaningless to most people. But if somebody comes out and looks vigorous and good and looks like, yeah, that may change things and Trump may lose. But as things stand now, I think Trump will win. But again, they can change. Okay, so although we took some hits with the unit, I don't think it was a total of 10 factors. We could go back and look at it, but it was factors that were lost. But I can next turn immediately 100% reinforce these units. Sure, they're a bit, because we can look at this unit here. Its right now readiness is 77%, and what is that? 66% morale. But this division is 89 and 69. So because it's been in battle, it's a battered division, not just that its strength is down. But we can reinforce it immediately next turn, where they're going to have to repurchase the division, have it go through this production line and get back onto the field and cost MPP as well as time on the field, or I mean time off the field. So keeping this spot here and not occupying it is going to, like, hopefully about every turn kill a division is the idea. Or at least every other turn. Are they putting really old people in power? No, they're just a lot of old people that have the power and they're not giving it up. And yeah, that's sort of the situation. Trump is a bit different in, yes, he's old, but he's not part of the power structure of Washington, D.C. He was a real estate developer and a TV personality prior to that, a business guy. He was not a Washington, D.C. guy. Where a lot of the senators, a bunch of Congress people, and whatnot in Washington, D.C. are just really old, and the people around them that have power because they're on the staffs are keeping these really old people in office. They're just not giving up. And I guess it's just the seduction of power. Why is Nancy Pelosi still in Congress? I don't think she's even retiring this year. I think she's running again, but she knows she's not going to be Speaker of the House ever again, just her age and whatnot. But what is why isn't she just living in San Francisco in one of her mansions, enjoying her life? She what is the you know I get that some people truly believe that they're going to do good things in power. But if Nancy Pelosi were not to run again, in San Francisco, there would be another leftist. And she could even work to get other leftists that are, agree with her views into the San Francisco, seat for Congress. And she could do things behind the scenes and still have a lot of power, but she's clinging to power and she's ancient. It's where it's not a case that if she were to leave, the other side would take over and win, and oh my God, I got to stay here to keep our side going. No, it's she could, retire tomorrow and be wealthy and whatnot. So it's weird. Let's see what Beam Slam says here. For about a month ago, I had a dream where Biden was replaced with Kennedy or a type like him in the campaign. Wish it would be true, but odd dream. Well, Kennedy's even admitted he's had a worm eat part of his brain. That's part of the reason why he talks like he does. See, he's literally brain damaged. Still better than Biden, but he's brain damaged. I think it would be somebody like Gavin Newsom would be more likely to be a replacement for Biden. Um, Kennedy is loathed, hated by the Democratic power structure. So I don't see him coming in. He would be the left's version of Trump in that all the people around Washington D.C., even though he's sort of been there, um, he's not part of the system. So he is very, very unlikely to be coming in there. I think there should be an age limit for things like being president. Because of modern medicine, we are definitely seeing older people stay around a lot longer. You're right, Felipe. But we can look at Trump and we can look at Biden, and essentially they're the same age, but they're mentally very, very different. But what we need to do is look not so. See, this is term limits because, once you're in power in a governorship, in a Senate seat, in the House of Representatives, it's harder to get rid of you than simply getting rid of somebody of that party. So term limits might be a thing, but age limits, look, if the people aren't wise enough to look and go, hey, that man is an old person and he can't function, or she, or whatever, let's not vote for him. If people can't do that, well, then the whole democratic idea is flawed. Okay, so what does that matter? So if people can't collectively judge that people are incapable of doing this, well, then we shouldn't be having a democracy. So I'm against the idea of an age limit thing. I mean, if you want to say 105 is too old, okay, yeah, 105 is too old. But this Biden is not 100% there anymore. Yes, we know that. I've known that. I've known that since he was vice president. We could see that back then, but that's another thing. Odd indeed. I meant JFK Kennedy. Yeah, I know you did. I don't know why we would think. You're not thinking of Senator Kennedy, who's a rather funny guy. But yeah, but no, they hate the JFK Jr. They hate him. in Washington. In dreams, that is possible. Yes. Yeah. Right. Okay. So now, like I say, we're pushing from the north, heavily to keep the British occupied here. So we could look here, but what we can do here, 3 shells, 7 shells, 6 shells. Okay. Okay, you just come out to there. You would come up. Hmm. Maybe my ambition here is bigger than I can possibly do. Yeah, it would probably be best for them, those 3 countries, if Biden was still around. Yeah, this is probably best. We're going to reinforce here. And you have full point, so you're going to come in here. You're going to entrench, reposition the trenches. Well, Felipe, no president um, really makes decisions by themselves. Uh, I don't know what's going on in the Biden White House, and years ago, I worked for somebody who actually worked in the Oval Office. Okay, I don't mean just somebody who was in the White House. I could go into more detail, but I worked for somebody who knew Reagan very, very well, a friend of Reagan's. And when I say I worked in a small office, contact literally 6 days a week. We sort of did something on the one weekend day, and I was often driving this person around, just he and I in the car. Not all the time, but enough. So sitting for hours in L.A. traffic, if you can imagine. Now sometimes there were 4 of us in the car, sometimes there were 2 of us in the car, or 3 or whatever. So definitely spending time with this person who worked in the White House. So I've heard a lot of stories, talked a lot about. So I've literally known people that daily talked to Reagan in the Oval Office. Not there for all the meetings or anything like that, but daily around the Oval Office with Reagan. So now how and then I was a bit further away, but still sort of around, um, knowing people that were around Bush the older Bush. So I was within 10 or 20 feet of Bush the elder once, um, when he was vice president, running for president. Oh, and I was in the audience, when Reagan was speaking, or Bush the elder was speaking, and the audience, was, I don't know, 200 people or something. It wasn't like, a really small event. So, but I've been near the centers of power in the U.S. Um, more so than most people. Now, of course, there are people that are so much closer to the centers of power than I've ever been to, of course. But so I sort of kind of know how the Reagan and the Bush White Houses work. So this is, again, not from, again, as I'm saying, telling this story, I wasn't personally there, but it's more than just reading books. And though I have read books about this, and I've watched documentaries on this as well. Basically, every morning, there is a person who comes to the president, wherever he is around the world, with a stack of books that are, sort of 3-ring binder books type of books, that are printed, and we're talking, like printed that night for the president. Books specifically made for the president. Every single night, he has books made for him. Some books are really thick, some books are really thin. And this guy comes in with a stack of books. Each one of these has a cover sheet. And then there is all the details about them. And this could be, one of the books could be, during the Obama presidency, one of our small boats, Navy small boats, loses power or something, and it drifts into Iranian waters. And I guess they were stupid enough not to have somebody on lookout. I don't know. They were all down trying to fix the damn thing or something, and Iran captures the boat. Okay. So that would be, when the president wakes up, there would be a book about that incident for the president. U.S. troops captured by Iran, whatever it would be. And these books would be prepared by the various intelligence agencies as well, sometimes about other, non-intelligence agencies' issues that he may be facing for the day. And so Carter, is my understanding, would get these books, and then the guy would bring him in, would brief him on these topics, would sit there, in front of him, hand the book over, and he would read off something about, the events. And the guy who was, or possibly sometimes the crew if they thought it was needed, but would have familiarity with some of the stuff in the books. And so Carter would take these books and read the books every single day, read the whole books, and he would get buried in the details and take a long time to make decisions. But normally, most presidents, and definitely Reagan was of this type, is that there would be a cover letter, cover sheet, 1 page, and it would have a paragraph, and I'm sort of paraphrasing this and going from memory, so I'm sure this is wrong. If somebody wants to go and look at more details on some of the various people that write books about working in the Reagan White House. But there would be like a paragraph that describes the incident, and again, somebody telling Reagan about this. And then it would give a number of suggestions about what to do about this. Bomb Iran, nuke Iran, do nothing, run out of the White House screaming that your hair is on fire, or whatever the options that we should do about this, boat being captured by Iran. And it would give, A, B, C, D, E, F, whatever, different options. Pick one, Mr. President. Now, the idea, and mostly Reagan would just deal with the cover sheet. And so the people writing the book has a lot of influence. Because maybe, and this is what they'd often do with all presidents, the different agencies, the different groups involved, might bury information or might bury options deep in that book that they're hoping the president doesn't read. And they're psychologically trying to say, well, if we give him these three options, he's going to pick one of them. How can we make the one whatever agency or whatever, the State Department thinks about what we should do with France or whatever, they have an agenda. So they make one option sounds really good. Hey, we do this, it's going to be a win-win scenario, situation, great. Do this thing. Makes Americans happy, makes the world happy, whatever. So they try to present these things to have the president pick one of them. Now, the president can do whatever the hell he wants to. He can ignore the situation. He can order other things going on. But so it's how they present that information to the president. That is one way the president make decisions. Okay, so that is influencing any sort of president. And some presidents, and the idea is that if this is a tough decision, needs a bit more, you're supposed to read parts of the book. It's never really meant to read the whole thing, for the president, because there's just too much to do. Again, Reagan normally just skimmed the top. And then the other way things happen with the president is different presidents run the thing differently, run the White House differently, but there are generally cabinet meetings. I don't know if Biden's doing it. I have not been paying attention. But in which they will not maybe get the full cabinet, but to get a good chunk of the cabinet in on what either the president or his staff thinks are important issues. Like how to deal with inflation or how to deal with unemployment. So we'll get the different, cabinets and then, ministers in. And then some of them maybe always show up just because either they're close friends / allies of the president or they're just sort of powerful, like the Secretary of Defense, even though that may not be a terribly big issue for, unemployment for the Secretary of Defense, but he'll just be there. So, they'll sort of get together in a cabinet meeting, and the different cabinet ministers through their agencies will, hey, this is what we should do. And they may have conflicting, opinions and argue it out and whatever. And then the president sort of direct the agency to do things, and, picks programs, that kind of stuff. So most presidents, and I definitely believe Biden isn't, he isn't scouring the internet. Hello, Paul. He isn't scouring the internet to find obscure events around the world and what the U.S. should do about it. So it's what he's being presented with. This is any president. So if he's being presented with, this is a problem somewhere out in the world, here are our options. Do we want to embargo the nation? Do we want to put a tariff on the nation? Do we want to send the ambassador to talk to somebody? Let's say American citizens being held hostage somewhere, either by the government or by the rebels or whatever. Or, oh, hey, yeah, there's some problem here. So it's normally, and I believe probably more so with Biden, is that he is being presented with situations, hey, this is how to get unemployment less. And he's being presented with options. Well, we do this, it will help lower unemployment. And they make the ones that they want, the staff, the intelligence agencies, the different bureaucracies through their, cabinet member, present what sounds like the best options. And I bet you Biden's picking the one that sounds best because it's been made to sound best. So, yeah. Does that sort of deal with it? And your question there, Felipe? Let's see. Russia would likely see Trump than Biden. Trump might stop support for Ukraine. Okay, Bean Flam. I don't know what Putin wants, but in my opinion, looking at Putin and the American presidents, we see Bush the Younger in office. Putin invades Georgia. Putin leaves because of Bush's actions. Putin leaves Georgia. Yeah, I know South Ossetia and the whatever, those two enclaves have been, however long, even since before Georgia declares independence, have been Russian controlled. I'm talking about their invasion that cuts Georgia in half. They withdraw entirely from it because what Bush does. Now, I don't know I know some of what Bush does, but Bush may have, say things privately like, if you don't get the hell out of here, we're going to do other things. I don't know what goes on always behind the scenes in something like that. But because of what Bush does, Putin backs down after a relatively successful invasion. Then under Obama, Putin invades and takes Crimea and does a persistent proxy war in Ukraine, in the Donbass, where mostly it's not men in official Russian uniforms, whether they're local ethnic Russians, which I think some of them are, or whether they are, we'll call them Russian volunteers that are officially, not maybe actually, but officially leaving Russian military service and being volunteer to fight the Ukrainians. And Obama, because of Obama's actions, Putin keeps Ukraine and the fighting continues to happen. And then under Trump, no new aggression. Sure, the Donbass is still fighting. Sure, Putin still has Crimea. Then, very shortly after Trump leaves, we see the invasion of Ukraine under Biden. It fails. In my opinion, it fails miserably. I think Putin is very worried about what Biden will do. No, not Biden. Trump will do. I think he's very, very worried about what Trump will do. My opinion is, this is my opinion now of what I think Trump will do. I think Trump will get into office once, and this won't be day one, but once he gets his cabinet in place and approved, because you got to get him approved by the Senate. He can say, John Smith, you're the Secretary of Defense. And he can be acting Secretary of Defense and he has a number of days to get approved by the Senate. Not by the House, but by the Senate. And if he gets approved, now John Smith is the Secretary of Defense, and now Trump has somebody in as Secretary of Defense and Secretary of State and blah, 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 blah. Once he gets his cabinet and the people in charge of the they'll use the European term, the ministries of the U.S. government, once he has that locked down, then I think he's going to approach Putin with a settlement for Crimea. I don't know what it will be, but he'll have a settlement, and he will say, and whatever that settlement is, and it may be, Putin, you get to keep exactly what you own, right, or what you control right now, and we'll recognize it, and we'll force Ukraine because we'll stop supporting the Ukrainians if they stop fighting it. But if you move 1 foot further forward, deeper into Ukraine, no, we're going to have peace there now. But whatever it'll be in Trump's mind, it'll be either a good deal. Now he'll sell it as the best deal on the planet. Got to remember with Trump, it's either the best or the worst. And it's just the way he sells things, not necessarily the way he thinks, but the way he sells things to the public. Either it's the best thing in the world or it's the worst thing in the world. It's not, somewhere in between. But he'll have a plan for peace in Ukraine. And it will basically be, I'm sure there'll be little things around the margins, but basically it'll be, Putin, take this or leave this. You got to accept this or no. And it'll be up to Putin to decide if he's going to accept this. Whether this is a good deal for Ukraine, a good deal for Europe, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. But Trump will have this idea. Now, if Putin agrees to it and sticks to the agreement, not that we trust him, but we observe him and he isn't doing something else, then Trump will push this and force this onto Ukraine if Putin agrees to this. If Putin doesn't agree to this, then Putin is now an enemy of Trump. And Trump will pour even more resources in than Biden would, because he will want a win and a win fast. So I don't know what Putin wants. My understanding, again, I know I'm supposed to be playing World War I, but you guys get me off topic. My understanding is Russia is moving to a full-time militarized economy for long-term militarization. And with, to grind through the Ukraine war, and people are worried about, once you have an instrument, you've built this big military industrial complex, that you'll then move into places like the Baltic states or whatever. And is this the goal of Putin, or is this Putin being desperate? I don't know. Would Putin be happy with a peace settlement that freezes the border as the current front lines? Would he be happy? I don't know. I don't have that. I don't have that answer. Would Putin go, great, we're going to throw a victory parade. We've got the Donbass plus the down to Kherson area. We've got all that. Great, we won, and tell all the Russian people that we won and throw a big victory parade. He might do that. Or he might be thinking, I've got to take all of Ukraine. And if he's thinking he's going to take all of Ukraine, Trump's going to oppose that, in my opinion, and oppose it hard and not give up on it. So it all depends on is Trump going to get what Trump thinks he should get out of this, is my opinion of the situation. So, yeah, does Putin want Trump? Well, if Putin is satisfied with, ending the war here now, ending the fighting here now, Now, he might want to pick it up 5-10 years later once he's rebuilt the Russian military. But if he wants to end the war now, under these conditions, or willing even to be able to give up some territory that he's currently controlled, then he probably wants Trump in, because I do think the Biden administration thinks it can bleed Putin dry and cause a regime change by having a grinding war, where Trump would be willing to stop the war. But if Putin wants all of Ukraine, then I think he would rather have Biden, because I think he sees Biden as a weaker leader. Okay, let's see. Yes. Hi, hello, Paul. I'll get to your second comment here in a moment. Yes, we're playing World War I. Brazil is bad too. They're even comparing Lula to Biden. Yeah, I dislike Lula. I know you're much more local to it. But yeah, everyday Lula is saying something bad that makes the dollar prices rise in real. Yeah. Well, Lula is a communist at heart, and if not in openly, and yeah, he's that. Right now, the dollar is at, what's that, 5.4 real. Yeah, okay. Putin will say no to any case if it does not involve him getting all 5 Ukrainian provinces they partly occupy. I don't think Trump will threaten with direct war. I'm not saying direct war, but we could definitely improve our aid to Ukraine. And I don't think Trump will directly attack Russia, but we could embargo Russia even more. Economically, we can do more soft power stuff than we're currently doing. Ukraine will not accept a deal like that anyways. Ukraine will accept whatever. Beam Flam, you remember when the fate of Czechoslovakia was decided, Czechoslovakia was not in the room, was not even there, was not even around the city in Munich or earlier in the earlier conferences. It was France, it was Britain, it was Germany, it was Italy decided Czechoslovakia. The only question I have in my mind is, will Europe go it alone on Ukraine? Now, and again, we're here, and I'll get to some of the other comments. What part of the dedication of my YouTube channel is lessons from history. We do historical lessons, talk about this happened on this date, blah, blah, blah. But lessons from history. Czechoslovakia has defense agreements with France against Germany. France could have decided to defend, go to war over Czechoslovakia. But France, and there's lots of, France is divided, Europe's divided, all kinds of similarities. France won't go to war with Germany without strong British support. Basically Britain coming into the war, and doing so cheerfully. So when Britain says we won't go to war over Czechoslovakia, France doesn't go to war over Czechoslovakia. Germany gets the Sudetenland and then later occupies, Bohemia, Moravia, and Slovakia breaks off, blah, blah, blah. The history, and go back to my episodes talking about that in much greater detail. Right. So if Trump says, the Trump peace plan, whatever it is, doesn't matter for this moment, Trump peace plan, and if Putin says yes to the Trump peace plan, what is Europe? I'm not talking about the EU, because Britain is out of it, other things. But what is Europe? And not just European governments, but what are the European people and governments, European industry, Europe as a whole collective? What is Europe's response going to be at that moment? Is it going to be, F you, Trump? We're 100% behind Ukraine. Here we are sending in French brigades to defend Ukraine because, France is sort of at war with Russia in Africa. But we're going to send in brigades, and Germany is going to send in brigades, and Italy is going to send munitions, and Portugal is going to send whatever. Portugal sends bandages or something. I don't know. Britain's going to, start flying air cover around Ukraine, and we're 100% in. Well, okay. Or is Europe going to go? You mean America is not going to sell, artillery shells, not going to sell tanks, not going to sell anything, not going to give any money, not going to do anything on Ukraine? What is Europe going to decide to do? They're going to follow the Trump plan, or are they going to be all in? If they're not going to be all in, and they don't have to go to war like I'm stating, but send money and guns and lawyers to, as the song goes, send money, guns, and lawyers to Ukraine. Lawyers would be the sort of stopping all economic deals with Russia. No trade, zero trade on anything with Russia, with any European country and their possessions and whatnot. Complete that. If they were doing money, guns, and lawyers, full all in, well, then Ukraine can, with that support. But if Europe, and again, I don't know what the answer is going to be. If Europe follows the Trump plan, Ukraine's going to do exactly what Trump says. It will. It just has to. It has no other choice. There can be some crazy terrorists that continue the guerrilla war or something like that. I don't know. But basically, they will follow the Trump plan. So, yeah, we can look at Czechoslovakia. That will tell us, will Europe/France stand up and do it on their own without America's support? Again, now if Trump plan doesn't, if Putin doesn't follow the Trump plan, well, then Trump will be, bigger thing. So we'll see about that. Question on the game. Yes, we are on the game. How would the AI react if you brought all of your artillery and air into one area and making a focal point? Well, how do I put this? See this province here, Paul? If I leave this province open, it'll constantly send in a division here to die every turn. If I leave it open, it'll send in that because it won't fall back. It won't see that the AI won't see that. See, this really nice straight line is a good straight line. It's better to hold it. Nope. We can move into this position. We can move in this position, and it may be trying to see that. Oh, hey, we can surround whatever this city is here, Chem des Dames or whatever, and push on it eventually. But it doesn't learn from the idea that any division that moves in here won't be entrenched, so it will just die. It doesn't learn from something like that. It does see, as I'm pushing here with a lot of artillery, I do believe they're maybe not everywhere along here, but they're definitely, and it's sort of fallen back here as we pushed in and taken this down, and they couldn't, and they tried to counterattack. So it does react to your pushes and tries to hold them, and it does sort of have eventually to fall back on other strong points as it sees and thinks it can defend it. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question. I don't know that there's a specific answer to it. Okay, back to Beam Slam. Putin's existence is depending on the war. If he backs down, he is finished. If he can sell, because if he can sell it, yeah, I disagree. Now, if it looks like he's defeated, you're right. But if he can say, hey, look, we've got all this new territory, And the U.S. is recognizing the map change, because the U.S. did not recognize the map change over Crimea, did not recognize either independence or Russian ownership of the Donbass. But if you go, America will recognize, and the UN and blah, 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 recognize that Crimea is now Russian, Donbass is now Russian, the area that's out of the Donbass but north of Crimea is now actually Russian. And it's, actually the maps change, officially. He might be able to sell that as a victory. So I don't know that that's backing down. Now, if he's having to retreat out of the Donbass entirely, if maybe he still gets to hold Crimea, but we're not recognizing it, Ukraine is not recognizing it as Russian territory, if he's having to, he may not back down. So, it depends on what the thing is. I don't know. It's hard to tell with Trump, but on ZZ, but from what I understand from his past comments, he's called for getting ceasefires quickly if either side threatens to cut off aid to Ukraine, if there are non-agreeing side and threaten to massively ramp up. Yeah, and it's whatever Trump sort of proposes in his mind is good. I worry about Brazil become like Venezuela. Okay, Felipe, let me put your mind at rest. You don't have to worry about Brazil becoming like Venezuela. You don't have to worry about it. It just will. That's the plan. So don't worry about it. It's going to become like Venezuela. That's the plan. Don't worry about it. It's just going to happen. That's the plan. That's Venezuela is the communist model. Okay, what most Americans do not seem to understand is that we are at war with Russia about Ukraine and Eastern Europe. Later, the war will continue with Trump or without him. Well, yeah, I see your point, but it's been that way since ever. Since Peter the Great, Beam Slam. Why not in 1945 that the Danes, got all the weapons from America and captured German weapons and immediately start attacking Russia? They didn't have nuclear weapons then. I mean, that was sort of the whole point of the German invasion of the Soviet Union, was that Russia's at war with Europe, and it's a forever thing. So what? Big deal. It's always that way. Okay. I don't think I've really ever played Supreme Ruler. He decided those are Russian territories. If you retreat, it'll... Yeah, but it's what you can sell to the people. It's what you can sell to the people. Okay, so here, because we hold this fortification here, any enemy units within 1 hex get bombarded every turn and slightly weakened. Just so you understand that when we're looking at this. So now that we've taken and been able to hold this, we have a strategical point. We need to take this town, though. I think we could push here with the tank, but I think our tank is going to do better pushing up this way. So we're going to move the tank here. We can basically take this out with this tank. Bye-bye. Okay, so that's just done. Now we have our reconnaissance bomber, which is sort of a combination of recon/bombing. Interceptors! Escort! They lose 1 factor, we lose 1 factor, they lose 1 factor, they get sort of identified and we see what's around them. All right. So now, our artillery bombardment. We got 6 rounds. We've got 3 rounds in this gun. Now this position here. Because again, remember, we want to take that town, that strategic point. So, Let's land these ground attack bombers, which are different than recon bombers. Okay, so yeah, let's do one more. So these guys are down at 40% readiness, 15% morale. Yep, defensive artillery. Okay, not as big a chunk out of them as I had hoped. Yeah, we'll move here. No, we're not able to attack that aircraft. Okay. A lot weaker than I thought. Okay, oh, I wanted to be able to move out of there. Oh, bummer. Well, we didn't quite take it this turn. Well, all right. Now, we want to move the artillery up. Okay, so I was really hoping to take that this turn. That's why I moved these guys in without any entrenchments. But okay, let's see. Czechoslovak agreement in 38 was a major error in hindsight, but it will not make that mistake. Europe will not make that mistake again. I've come to disagree with that, Beam Slam. I think the let's see, I don't want to also however, Ukraine may well make an agreement with Russia at some point. I'm sure they will, but it's up to them what their conditions and terms will be. My understanding, they already wanted to in the past make some sort of agreement within like the first year of the war, and the Western allies said no. In my opinion, and I'm also looking at the perceptions of the people at the time, not necessarily the reality as we understand it. Meaning, how strong they thought Germany was, and things like that. Because if you think the enemy has 500 bombers, but they only have 300 bombers, well, you're making your assessment that they have 500 bombers, and it's not a mistake if your best intelligence says they have 500 bombers. You make your assessment based on that, not looking back at it 50 years later when we know they only had 300 bombers. I think I've come to think, maybe it's just my contrariness, but I've come to think Chamberlain's decision for not peace in our time, because that's not what he said. He said peace for our time, to prepare. He didn't say the last bit. But Chamberlain believed, and I think it was realistically correct, especially after Austria, because you got to remember this is after Austria has been incorporated into the Reich. There are no defenses of any significance along the Austro-Czech border. The border has also gotten longer, so it is harder to defend. And so the Germans can make a plunge, even if the fortifications of the Sudetenland were going to be well manned, well fought out, and defended, and the Sudeten German uprising would be pitifully nothing, and they're going to fight hard on that border. You could race old-fashioned cavalry divisions out of Austria into Prague, and definitely cutting Austria in two. Whatever may or may not happen with the Slovak part of Czechoslovakia, even if they're fully in on the war and are going to fight for your side, which I don't know. I don't know the Czech perception of what the government thought the Slovaks were going to do. But they were going to be on the front line because sort of Slovakia sort of kind of borders Austria now. So because they're flanked, Czechoslovakia has no way to survive a war with Germany in 1938 unless one thing happens. Unless France vigorously attacks Germany. Vigorously attacks Germany. And there is no plan, no concept, no conceived idea from the French that they're going to vigorously attack Germany. They're going to sit behind the Maginot Line if they go to war with it. They're gonna fight a defensive war. Was it Hadler or one of the other German generals contacts the British and says, if you vigorously, in 1938, if you over the Munich crisis, if you go to war with Germany and you vigorously attack, and saying to the British, out of, into Germany, not just that you're at war and you have a naval blockade and then France is sitting behind the Maginot Line, but if you vigorously attack and push in there, we will then do a coup against the Nazis and get rid of them and do the peace out kind of thing. But however much that offer whether they think it's real or they think it's a trap or whatever, but my understanding, the offer is made to the British enough that the highest levels of the British government know of the offer. Whatever they think of the offer, is it substantial or is it just wishful thinking from a German general? I don't know how they evaluated the offer to be, how serious. But they know that there isn't going to be a vigorous offensive over Czechoslovakia into Germany. So I've come to the conclusion that it is not the time to go to war, because Chamberlain, within the realities of Britain in 1938, Chamberlain immediately starts arming up Britain as much and as fast as he can. Well, obviously, once the war actually starts, he even arms it up more, and then Churchill continues that even more. But now, obviously, when Churchill's coming in, France has already fallen. But within peace, now I'm not sure how much Daladier starts arming up France. I really don't know, but they are working on it. They are coming out with new tank models. They're developing stuff. They're definitely working on new armaments. I just don't know how vigorous it is. I just don't have enough information on that. But I do believe Chamberlain, as much as within the political realities of his time, he is arming up Britain to get ready for a war with Germany. Because he now agrees with Churchill that war with Germany is inevitable. The Munich Conference spells out that war with Germany is going to come. He does not, the peace agreement that he has in his mind is not that it's going to be the peace of Europe. It is simply peace for now, not peace forever. He knows war is coming. The time to go after Germany was 1936, when they remilitarized the Rhineland. The time to go after Russia was whatever the year they invade Crimea. If I was president, now maybe I would make a bad president, but if I was president then, when Russia occupied Crimea, I would have quickly talked to the military, and I would have, because I'm a as you know, a military kind of interest guy. I would have been talking to the military and seeing how ready you are and making sure some units are ready even before there's a problem. But once you get the problem, what I would have done is I would have got the military ready and put a battalion of M1 Abram tanks on readiness, and I would have called up whoever the then Ukraine president was and asked them can we schedule a joint live fire exercise in your country? U.S. and Ukrainian live fire training exercise in your country. And the bewildered Ukrainian president, where I would have gone, well, yeah, we could do that. Where would you want to do that? Oh, we want to hold it down in the Crimea. And I would have literally pushed a U.S. tank battalion, and this was within 30 days of Russia's occupation, driving south into Crimea, daring the Russians to shoot at. Because I'm in internationally recognized Ukrainian territory. I'm not heading anywhere near a Russian border, and I recognize, so I'm not pushing, towards Rostov on the Don or Stalingrad or wherever. I'm not going after I'm just driving a tank battalion heading south into Crimea with the belief that if somebody were to be stupid enough to shoot a projectile towards my forces, they would get overwhelming return fire and slaughtered. I think we now know that Chamberlain fought rearmament until Winston Churchill was elected to the Admiralty. That's not the information I have, Paul. I mean, if you could point to an article about that, I think he was really pushing for rearmament. That's my understanding. After the Munich conference, not before. After. Before, yeah, I would agree he was against rearmament. But after, my understanding, he goes for it. But maybe you can change my mind if you point to some article or something. I would gladly. I'm not saying I'm going to read a novel or a big thick book, but I'd read an article that specifically talks post. And Winston Churchill is only, I think, put into the Admiralty after the war starts. So that's I'm pretty sure he's only as First Lord of the Admiralty, he's only put back in after the war starts. But I could be wrong, Paul. I could be wrong. If you know you're right and you can point to something, fine, great. Actually, I'm going to move there and retake that territory, and then I'm going to move back. Maybe it'll encourage the French to come down here again. I don't get Winston Churchill hack. I don't get that. Either that's a typo or some sort of abbreviation. I don't understand. But and then have following behind this tank battalion moving into Crimea, I would have Ukrainian forces come in and disarm Russian occupation forces and peacefully send them all home. That's what I would have done over. Now, maybe if I was sitting in the office and, they gave, like I was talking about, the daily morning briefs and their option A, B, C, and D, it wouldn't be a practical. But at least from my perspective, sitting out here, I would have done that live fire exercise to go into Crimea and force the Russians out. And I think Putin would have backed down. And if Putin backs down over Crimea, It's just like, and again, it's maybe my prejudice from history, because my understanding is Hitler gave orders that if the French came in and reacted to um, German occupation of the Rhineland, the German soldiers were to immediately retreat and not engage the French coming in. Um, Maybe I'm just projecting that onto Putin, but that's sort of what it is. Well, we're going to end this episode, not the live stream just yet, but this episode right now. It's been going on too long. We will be back next time with more historical gaming. Okay, guys. Yeah, we're going to continue here, but I'm going to grab another Coke, and I'll be right back, and we will continue. Almost back. All right. Let's continue here. Welcome back, fellow armchair generals. We are playing Strategic Command World War I, the 1918 Ludendorff Offensive, and we are talking about the effects of World War I on history and everything, and to today. Winston Churchill had a shadow cabinet that was forcing Chamberlain to rearm. His daily attacks were accurate numbers. Direct to threat, possibly force, no confidence vote. You're right, Winston Churchill, after the war started. Yeah. Yeah, well, like I say, my understanding is Chamberlain understood that war was coming and he worked to rearm. Um, Also, please note within my statement, within the political realities that he faced. Meaning, again, this is my understanding. And yes, it can be wrong. I'm not in any way saying that I have all the truth and nothing but the truth and everything that I say. But my understanding is I'm thinking here. And I'm not, I'm not saying he I'm this isn't coming from a specific source that I can point to, Paul, but it's coming, shall we say, collectively from various things that I've read, documentaries, blah blah blah. That there was not a public appetite in 1938 for war with Germany. And if Chamberlain came out and said, "We must rearm to be prepared for a war with Germany," that could get him a no confidence vote. And I'm not saying he colluded with Churchill. And I definitely know Churchill was pushing for rearmament in 1939, 1938. Sometimes you know, sometimes you use your opponent. You know, this Churchill 3-book series is good, but one-sided. Yes, and some of that is coming from some of that, as well as some documentaries and other stuff. One thing, one thing you can, and I'm going to sort of bring an illustration from modern day Europe. I don't see, now maybe it just, again, it's happening, but I don't see it. I don't see the idea, okay, I see the leaders of Europe, of the center left, center right, blah, blah, these politicians not using the threat from the right to get them to change their policies. They're sticking to their policies, and the big is immigration from outside of the EU, outside of Europe. That is why, whether it's the AfD in Germany or Le Pen in France or Reform UK and Britain, why they are coming to significant power, I think, is not that they're controlling or even going to control the governments. We'll see what happens in the French elections this weekend, tomorrow, I guess. Not that they're the reasons for their rise, that the center is running to get support from the left to oppose the right, instead of going, oh my God, these right wingers are winning. What can we do to steal their thunder? What can we do to draw their teeth, as it were? What policy can we implement? And even not even like totally go and adopt like no immigration, blah blah. Now, what can we do to at least appear to address the issues? They're not even doing that. Where I see, you can use chamber. Yeah, okay. Let's see what agreed use to get more than his party wanted to do. He was also realized that he started too late because it was going to have to cut back on social reform. Yeah, and so I totally agree with anybody that politics is the art of the possible. And it is fine that any one individual can have a will not give in on a particular issue, whatever the issue is. But most things in politics, you need to work to get the best you can do. However you want to say that. So if it's a policy issue of a policy, like I don't know, trying to think in the 1930s or something, we will not recognize Italy's conquest of Ethiopia. Yeah, we know it happened, but we're not going to change the map. We're going to say that's occupied Ethiopia. Well, that doesn't cost the British government, or the British people, the British government, really any money. That's just a policy statement. I'm sure there's some trade, something somewhere costs something, but it's not a big thing. Now, it's another thing to say, we're going to build 2 more aircraft carriers and we're going to cut, social payments down by 20%. And people are going, well, I can't afford to live now even on it. You cut it by 20%, I'll be starving and in the streets. or some such thing. So yeah, my understanding is that they're, that if you're working in a regular form nowadays, it's different. You just print as much money as you want, and it won't cause inflation. No, it won't cause no inflation. We just print money so we can build aircraft carriers and give free health care and give money to anybody who wants it as much as you want, forever, and it'll never cause inflation, and it will be just fine forever and ever and ever. Um, you know, so but in the past, if you had to balance the budget, so if you took a dollar or a pound away from one, or you wanted to put a pound or a dollar into one project, you had to take it from another one. So you couldn't, you had to balance budgets, and money was something real that was, had gold or silver in the bank, and that's all the money you had. Yeah. You're doing what you can, and so that's how I see Chamberlain. To see politics as the art of balancing what you want to do with what your opponents wants to do versus reality. Yeah, and so if you can convince everybody that spending billions or trillions of dollars on a space program is a good thing, well, then you convince the people that, yeah, space is a good thing. And when they go, yeah, we want medical support for poor people. Well, yeah, you got some. Well, but we want more. But, well, do you want to take it away from the space program? And so if you convince people that the space program is a good thing, I generally think it is. We could debate how much you should have in it, but yeah, space program, good thing. But you've convinced the people that it's a good thing, well, then great. But now if all the people, all they want is money to go to medical support and they don't care anything about space, well, you failed in convincing them. I'm trying to take it out of some sort of, other policies. And so, yeah, and that's how I see Chamberlain. I see him, again, it's not peace in our time, it's peace for our time. It's not peace forever. Not we trust Hitler. It's nothing like that. We're not going to have war now, guys. You can all breathe a sigh of relief. War is not today. But I do believe Chamberlain, at that point at Munich conference, finally realized war is coming. And if you're looking at it from the European perspective that Beamslam was, well, I'm not the greatest historian on Russian history, but I do quite know that Peter the Great wants to make Russia a European power instead of some sort of Eastern big nation. And that ever since Peter the Great, Russia has been pushing west, with the furthest expansion under Stalin. But we can look at, I forget which Russian czar, but, he had large Russian army in Paris during the end of the Napoleonic Wars. We can see them dividing up Poland with Frederick the Great and whoever was it, Maria Theresa or whatever, as Austria, dividing up Poland. And then, of course, Napoleon gets pseudo-independent Poland. And then once Napoleon's gone, they go back to the old divisions, I believe, probably actually almost exactly the old divisions, but if not close, that Russia's pushing into Europe. Well, I don't know that that's ever going to change. And so what is Europe going to do about it? What is Europe going to do about it? Are you willing to, is Europe, the people, willing to risk nuclear war? You know, Munich showed the world Germany had rearmed and wanted to take its place in the world table. Yeah, I would have used world stage, but yeah, just that's my alliteration. You're right. I won't go into it, but I do have contacts in Ukraine right now. I'm not going to say anything like high level, but I actually know people. Don't want to specify because, you know, security issues and other things. Um, and they're worried about peace with Russia because not, I know I'm sort of putting words in their mouth, but this is what they've told me. And I'm using very, a few people around might sort of know who I'm talking about and whatnot, but I'm trying to keep it very, very vague. Not because they're worried about Russia today, if there was a peace now with Russia, at whatever the border is going to look like. What they're worried about it is 10, 20 years from now. That, and not that it's Putin 10, 20 years from now, but that Russia will be rearmed, revigorated, sort of like if we look at the perceived, whatever the reality would have been, but the perceived Russian military might of the Cold War, that then when they're defeated, they atrophy, they go down, and they've gone down here. And now that they've showed to be, they could not take in 4 days, could not take Ukraine like I think they thought they were going to do. They definitely could. I mean, yeah, there were special forces or whatnot in Kiev, in the capital, but they weren't able to take the capital anywhere near it. That they seen how weak they are. It's sort of like Germany seeing them, losing World War One. They're worried about, again, these are lessons from history here. They are worried that, and the people are persons that are talking to me, I think reflect other people's thoughts within the government, that Russia is going to, learn the lessons of this defeat, like Germany learned the lessons of defeat of World War One, and build a better, stronger military, and then come back and take Ukraine, and Ukraine will not be able to withstand the attack. That's mostly what they're worried about. Is not today, but it's years to come. And that's their sort of perspective. Again, I don't know if this is just the perspective of a small group of clique. I'm not even saying at the top of power or anything like that, but just that are people that are within the decision-making processes at various levels, or whether this is the common perception within this group of people. I don't know, but I don't see. I see certain nearly set in stone, so long as conditions vaguely remain what they are, borders in Europe. Meaning, I don't see Spain trying to adjust its border with Portugal, or Spain trying to adjust its border with France, or Italy trying to adjust its border with any of its neighbors. Maybe we see in former Yugoslavia people still trying to adjust borders there. Um, I don't see Germany trying to adjust its border with Poland or with Denmark or with the Netherlands or somebody like that. So these borders seem to be fairly fixed right now. And the only thing seeming in my perception is localized independence groups might create smaller states out of bigger ones. But I do not see Russia, the Russian mentality. I'm not talking Putin, and this is where I think so many people get this wrong, that they focus on Putin. I don't see Russia satisfied with its borders. And we definitely see, under the Soviet Union, Russia at its greatest extent ever in history. And that is within living memory. I do believe those photos that are supposedly of Putin are Putin as a KGB agent, when the Soviet Union was still alive. So he's very much in, it's maybe not like just last week, but just a few years ago, we had divisions in surrounding Berlin, and the Soviet borders to him are the Russian borders. So the Baltic states and Moldova should all be, not just Ukraine, but Moldova, the Baltic states should all be part of Russia. Georgia, Azerbaijan, and the eastern provinces should all be Russia. And maybe some of those can be sort of satraps or other sort of locally, internally managed with their local puppet dictatorships. But whether that's in the east or the west, meaning that I'm not sure what the plan was, whether it was to try to annex all of Ukraine or just annex sort of the eastern third of Ukraine and put a puppet on the other 2/3 of Ukraine. I don't know, but it was probably something like that, so that they're wanting to adjust borders. And so I don't see the Russian zeitgeist has changed on that. So yeah, it matters. Okay, let me read. Peace with Russia allows Russia to learn from their mistakes in it. Yeah, but are you going to have a forever war with Russia? Or are you gonna, or are you going to have to risk nuclear war by trying to send in European divisions towards Moscow? And will that mean simply, oh, well, there's a couple of spearheads, let's just, fire a few localized nukes to destroy the spearheads? Or will that mean, oh shit, if we do that, they're going to shoot a few localized nukes at our spearheads, and so that'll be bad? Maybe we should just start out by nuking Paris, or Berlin. Are you willing to fight with nuclear weapons over this situation, being Slam or Paul or whoever, various European types? The only reason NATO is not at war with its troops is because nuclear weapons, but the boundaries will steadily increase up to support troops. Yeah, an attack. Yeah, now I do believe we are coming to a post-nuclear age, in the sense that governments are not fearing nuclear weapons being used, because the goal, even if there are armored divisions pushing towards Moscow, it may not appear to the Russian authority establishment, military and otherwise, that this means the end of Russia. It just means that if the Allies win, the borders move east. If the Russians win, the borders move west. Neither the borders changing. If Belarus becomes a Western puppet state, well, that doesn't mean the end of Russia. Now, a bunch of nukes going off could mean the end of Russia. So, yeah, nukes are there, but nukes probably won't be used, because where the border of Russia is not worth the big nukes. So only Russia is not understood European is finished with its border. Problem occurs when you say peace with Russia. Russian military will still hit the reset button and start rearming. Yeah, well, that comes down to the idea, is there ever peace? Is peace the norm or peace the abnorm? Is peace abnormal or normal? You know, that's okay. Now let's get back to this game here. So we push down here. We've got this neat line here, and I definitely want to push in here. But what we have here is a salient pushing into here that I think we can deal with. Okay, 5 shells. Number of shells matter. 6 shells, 1 shell. So, and well, I'm going to remember beforehand. That's the ground attack bomber. Let's fly in our recon bomber here. This is the main offensive this turn. Okay, next turn we got to reinforce. All right, now that we know the positions of their troops, now I'm firing with this gun first down here, because I may attack that other position if this one goes easy. Maybe not as easy as I'd like. 2 more shells. You can get all the way up to there. Now that they're super weak, we'll attack their southern flank and take them out. Now, we've got this position here. Hello, Michael. I see you back to the trenches. I've been playing in the East African campaign in the DLC. Yeah, that's another cool part. I really like the DLC for this game. Okay. We'll just fire 2 shells at this guy here. I don't know that I'm planning on attacking. Okay, that's actually a fairly good option there, so we'll do that. Because even though this guy is sort of, isolated on the spearhead here, we can take this out. He won't be so much. And he's gone. Okay, so we successfully came up here. We've entrenched. Now this guy here, action points, we can move in and entrench. Not that they're going to retaliate this turn, but now we've pushed in here. We can hit the S button for supply and see our current supply, and the next turn supply. We can push into here, but it's rather actually sort of foolish at this point. We should really push down this way now. Okay, you can come to here. Damn, I messed that up. Okay, you can come down here. What I want to do is get you closer and you closer to push along this front here. We've been on earlier, but a little bit of football match was taking place. Well, I understand. People like their sports. All right. So now we are ready to push here to cut this rail link here. Don't know if next turn or not, but it's coming soon. They're not readily going to be able to stop it. And we're pushing down this and this path here pretty well. A little bit of a stumble. Well, we could reinforce Yeah. Get up to sort of super strength with that. Okay, so let's see. More divisions, the better. Now, some of these other units we need to reinforce. Playing some as tanks in War Thunder is so bad. Well, playing some AA tanks in War Thunder is so bad. Well, it depends on what AA tanks you're talking about. Some are more effective as ground killing as others. Wanting to make sure that we are in the best shape possible. I think we pretty much are. Paris is hit by a massive strike wave. Talking earlier about Chamberlain and rearmament and what is possible. Think of this situation. You're in the midst of World War I, 1918. Yeah, the Americans are showing up, but they haven't had massive combat effect yet. I mean, their supplies are coming in, but the war is still going on. And you have a bunch of workers in Paris that are presumably, again, I'm talking out of ignorance here, I fully admit, but are presumably not soldiers. And they're going on and they're presumably workers working in the war industry, either directly or indirectly. Because if you're, if you're keeping the economy going, you're working for the war. That you're going to go on strike while there's others of your citizens living at the front lines and dying. How bad are your conditions? And they may be terrible, but how bad have your conditions got to be that you're willing to strike when maybe the way you would break the strike up is draft a bunch of these people into the army and send them to the front? And even if that isn't thought likely, what you're doing is denying whatever it is you're making to the frontline soldiers. So if you're stopped making bullets, that means the frontline soldiers don't get bullets or bandages or boots or, dinner or whatever. So to actually go on strike, to me that seems again, without knowing what's going on, seems rather a bad idea. Yeah. Yes, now the French mutiny is different in that these are troops that are at the front line, and they've lost confidence in their leadership. And I do know of it, but I'm not well versed in the details of the French mutiny. But obviously, it's lost confidence in that either the leaders are telling them to do stupid things, or like charging into a machine guns or something, or whether it is more of a not enough food, not enough ammo type situations, or it may be all of that combined. It's not necessarily a one thing. But it again, it's one thing to mutiny is like, oh hey, they're ordering us to go die tomorrow. If we mutiny, we might get shot by our own side, but we surely believe we're going to die tomorrow if we follow orders. That's different than workers in a factory, workers in a mine, workers, at a railway station loading and unloading boxcars or whatever it is. Okay, we lost a division. Aha, some heavy bombers. Don't know how effective they're going to be at bombing the front line. But we will put one of them down here. And we will put one of them up here. Let's put it here. It's sort of operating around here. Right. Now, let's move you forward. That's about as far forward as we can get. Take 5 and 5. We'll think about that. Okay. Now, when we pushed in here, it's sort of like when the French were coming into there. But we could. Right. Well, let's get back to our main sort of focus. Ditto, I'm not a big World War II guru. Only in the last year really began paying attention, mainly due to my board gaming. Yeah. Well, I've come to see the World War One as a radical change in society it causes in so many areas and so much of society. It's a radical change. I talk about some of that at the beginning of this live stream if you want to go back and check that out at some point, Michael. I'm trying to wrap my head around it. Just how big these changes were. I don't think people understand how big the changes were. Let's see. We would like to take there. That's looking very, very possible this turn. But we want to try to do it well and effectively. Now over here, we want to take that town. We take that town. We can take some of these others, but if we take that town, that's the key. So, yeah, we are going down here. Escorts. And hello. Oh boy. Tita Velunov. Good to see you back here. I know I have trouble with your name, but good to see you here. All right. So, Well, I'm not going to go all out with the artillery, but nearly so. No, that didn't quite get the result that I was looking for. You come up to here. No. They have the last 3 action points. Well, let's take out this gun if we can, or mostly. All right, well, damaged it by half. Now, I know I'm not entrenched. I want to be entrenched, but obviously I'm not. I'm hoping that when I saw that we had all of these other support units, they weren't going to be able to push me out. They might. I forget to attack with that. I forgot to attack with that. No, let's fall there. I hopefully have escorts, yes. Let me get here. Okay, over here we got escorts. Okay, so that artillery piece is very badly damaged. Right now, they only have rail access into Verdun through here. So we've gone from 3 railway, sort of, or minimum 2, because they had come up through this pass through here. They are now pushed down. Now we're going to push here and up here. Oh, these guys can pull back. These guys can get to there. It'll allow me to come up here with the tank. Partially, I just wanted to get the tank up here. Not entirely, but partially. And then I wanted to come in here with enough action points to entrench. Now, here. Um, That just changed my mind from this hex to this hex, seeing all that's back there. This guy's weaker. Well, taking out that unit. We may need to take this unit to be able to push a little more effectively. But we'll see what they send in as reinforcements there. Let's come up here. Now, we're in the rain. We want to push on the British. Okay, 5 and 5. So, not that this is going to have much combat effect. Not meant to. But it was meant to show me what was there, and there's nothing there. Great. This will allow me to move in like this and entrench. The all-important entrenchments. You get to come up to here for next turn now. How many rounds do we have here? We're going to gallop in here. I knew there was going to be somebody there. We got really badly munched, but it will allow us to move out and move in here without being surprised, ambushed, whatever. And move in here like this. Okay, so yeah, we do have an exposed unit here that very well may die, but they're fairly healthy. Yeah, we can move up that. So they got some artillery support. I probably should have shot at him first, but well, I know it's sort of a rinse and repeat situation, but the tank there, the tanks. Yeah, I see the tanks. The question comes down, is that unit and this unit here, are both of them going to get squashed by repeated attacks? Maybe. Or are these two units now being surrounded? Who is surrounding who? How and where? Okay, now down here with the Portuguese unit, that can be handled fairly easily. Well, actually, I'm going to. I wanted to see if there's anybody there, and there isn't. These guys are going to move in and entrench. And again, my hope is that they can't hit all of the sort of exposed corners all at once. Now here we could try an infantry attack, but we're not. I'm not coming back in here. So we're going to move him up here for next turn to push on that corner there. Okay, so reinforce, we have lots and lots of points. So we can we repair a shattered division, which real cheaply. Let's bring in a few more divisions here. Actually running low on them. We'll save the rest of the MPP for later, or use it as reinforcement costs like here. Keep our units in good shape. All right. Well, that's pretty good. U.S. employees, yes, okay. Scientists report progress on heavy bombers, okay. Scientists report progress on anti-aircraft defense, good. Wow, looks like they're withdrawing from that area. We'll see. Oh, they came back in now that I don't know if they did that because we moved the artillery or what. We'll see. Ooh, down by 5. They didn't have escorts. Good thing we do have some interceptors along here. Down by 5. Wow, they're getting heavy hit. Which means they'll be less effective in whatever their attacks are, but also they'll have a choice of either not attacking next turn and reinforcing, which will cost them money, or if they attack again, they could be entirely wiped out, which would put them back in the production queue and take a long time to show back up at the front. Well, they certainly have it in for that unit there. And yeah, they can take it, I think, if they really wish to. But they've got to push on it and choose that over other likely targets. I actually think this artillery fire is wasted. I would have tried to move that gun out of there to go to a more useful position. I don't know that he's entrenched even. Okay, yeah, they fired at that unit a lot. A defensive fire. They'll probably take the unit out. Yep. Not surprised. Well, he retreated instead of getting killed. Okay. Ooh, wow. That was a surprising result that we actually didn't take losses and took out well, didn't take out, but damaged their tank unit, I should say, because it isn't just a tank. That was the unit that fell back. Ah, starting to move in detachments, I see. Whether that means they're taking heavy losses and they're replacing them with detachments, or they have built out their army entirely and just have detachments left to manufacture. I don't know. Ah, there's Pershing. Hello, hi Pershing. I don't know why they're putting French generals up there, because they're not going to help command British troops as far as I know. I have seen later in this scenario them sort of use HQs as last-ditch defensive positions. Okay, we lost 2 divisions, yes. Yeah, we knew that there was divisions there. All right. I think we have enough forces down there. Let's here. Oh, we got a tank. I got to remember. Excuse me. Where to put that specifically? That's going to be important. Got one arm. Okay, he's heavily damaged. Horse down here. Horse units, cavalry units will be useful once we make a breakthrough. But they're also able to sit back and charge up and do damage and retreat. So they have their uses for sure in this game. Where do we want to put the horse? Where do we want to put the tank? I want to put Well, I think we're going to cut through here, and I don't think we need two in that one area. So we're still looking at the force unit right here. Tank. I think we're going to use the tank in here. So let's... Oh, yeah, we can strategically redeploy it later on. Okay, first, we're doing anything I want to reinforce that. Now, we did lose the unit that was here, but we did not lose the unit that was here. So they weren't able to take out both. We finally came in. See, you're advancing. Yes, we are advancing as well as shattering their forces, which is more important in my opinion. Okay, so they've fallen back here. They've tried to push here. Okay, we need to take this turn to reinforce this unit. But, that's sort of what we're doing, is stirring the pot here. Actually got a damage. Okay. Well, what we can do here is move him to here. Ooh, I knew that might happen. It's worse than I thought. Okay, but you're going to entrench. And you can slide down into there. Go. And I put you here for now. So we have succeeded in cutting this railing. Still need to fully surround it, but we cut the railing there. We need to get down to here or wherever to cut this other. And this northern shoulder is sort of a problem. So what we're going to do here is go after this French unit here. There we go. Now, he's gone. He has 4 action points. Going to take 3 to get there, and then 1 to entrench. But, yeah, there we go. You can move in there. Okay, so that's sort of securing the shoulder here. Now down here, lot positions there. That way we can reinforce here in this position. I know he's not entrenched, but it's sort of open here. But we are going to move him up here and entrench this time. I forget whether it was just circumstances or if I forgot to entrench last time here. Oh, well, they fell back. Well, look at two, I guess. Right, so making headway there. Now over here, okay, well, we can't really occupy that hex with an effective unit this turn, so we won't. Here, we moved in to an unentrenched position here. There we go. Cost us a little bit, but we took it out. Okay, well, we have this division up here, backed up by some, what is that, Portuguese or something? I don't know. Artillery. Yeah, oh, it's Belgian. Okay. Oh, how do I get him out? How do I get him out of there? I wanted him to come back. He has 2 more action points. These guys can't retreat back. Damn. You come to here, I guess. Let's see how badly you're. You come into there. You come up to there. Oh, we have. Here we go. And we'll see if they try to fill those in or not. Now, down here, let's see. 5 shells. This, I'm flying over this mostly to see what's in that hex. There we go. That's what I wanted to see. And entrench. There we go. They may be taking this next turn back, but we're pushing on them. Taking out units. Doing a lot here. Right. Well, I think we're going to end this episode here. I want to thank you all for watching this far, and I'd love to hear your comments. See you next time for more, yes, more historical gaming. And I want to thank Paul, Peter Villanova, Michael Fox, Felipe. Let's go back up here. Did I say Paul? I hope so. Beam Slam. Going back up. Yeah. Arno, of course. ZZ, if you're still around. Thanks so much for hanging out with me today. I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with you and playing the games. I say we because I think it'll be Arno and a few other people will be back tomorrow to play some War Thunder. There will not be. Oh, I will be playing on Slytherin starting basically on Wednesday for about 5 days or so, though not on Saturday, fortunately. Be playing Panzer Corps 2. There should be previewing a new DLC, though I have been warned that it might not be ready, and I might be just playing Panzer Corps 2. So starting on Wednesday, just Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Sunday, I think it is, Panzer Corps 2 over there. So hello, um, uh, Commandor Rando 123. So yeah, I'll be playing a bunch of that on Slytherin TV. But like Friday or Saturday of next week, I will not be here. But a week from today, I'm going to be going to a gun show in the morning, so won't be here. So, but of course that Sunday I should be back doing some more stuff. So, yeah, be seeing you guys around hopefully. So thanks everyone. See you next time for